Right, this is Monday, and we're going to head west across the province of Ulster to a westerly part of the province of Ulster, where we will find Pat McGart. How are you this morning or this afternoon, Pat?
I'm grand, Jude. I used to have a real trouble with an American friend explaining that I lived in Donegal, which was further north than Northern Ireland. But go ahead.
You're a southerner, obviously.
Yeah, but I'm a southerner, even though I live in the most northerly part of the island of Ireland.
No,
Very good.
logical.
Yeah.
Position is
Oh, real logical, yeah.
very
Yeah.
logical. So, is it cold as hell there today? Is it winter?
No, it's not actually, but it's Jude. It's autumnal. I think that's the best word for it. You know that Irish thing that 10 minutes of sunshine followed by 10 minutes of rain followed by 10 minutes of sunshine.
Yeah, it's a thing from an English summer, which was supposed to be 4 good days in a thunderstorm.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Yeah.
Anyway, enough of such nonsense. Let's talk about serious things. And I mean, one of the first subject we have here today, I've got mixed feelings on it. I'd be interested in hearing what you think of it. Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, is to be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court by Donald Trump against the wishes of the Democratic Party, who say last time round, whenever Barack Obama was in the same sort of situation in his final days, going to appoint a justice to the Supreme Court, the Republican Party, said, no, you can't do that. And now you're saying, oh, yes, we must. Anyway, he's going to appoint her, and she's the subject of some controversy because, well, you tell us why, Pat. What do you think?
I think the biggest controversy is that she's been appointed by Donald Trump against the wish. Like there's an election coming up, and it should be up to the new incoming president to decide. So this is the Republicans blocked it the last time, using or claiming all sorts of constitutional right for an incoming president. They blocked it for a year. Judge Ginsburg only died about a month ago or less. So they're rushing this one through to get a conservative onto the Supreme Court bench. Now that's the main thing that is against Amy Coney Barrett. The other thing is she's a very
rights. Pat, the reason within his rights, like you make.
No, hang on, Jude. You can't say some of their within his rights. Yeah, there's such a thing as the spirit and the letter of the law. The last time they were saying no, there's an election coming up and it's up to the incoming president. This is such an important position, and it's the settled view of the American people, if they vote for a Democrat or a Republican, that they have the right, because the Supreme Court decides a lot of things. So if it was wrong the last time, it's wrong this time. If it was right the last time, it's right.
But you know that politicians are always changing their minds on things and taking a new position. And it is.
But no, Jude. There's a certain amount. No, hold on. There has to be a certain amount of consistency and things like this. Politics is politics, on about a budget or something. But here's a matter of the whole philosophy of the nation, and you just can't. This is far more than who's going to provide a couple of million for drains or a road network or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, another thing about Coney Barrett, of course, is she is a seriously conservative Catholic. Now, having said that, I looked up a wee bit about her there the last week. She won, I think, 3 times Professor of the Year at Notre Dame. Notre Dame. I'm not
voted by the students too, as far as I know.
Voted by the students.
Yeah.
Every law clerk apparently she's ever worked with has supported her. All her colleagues, I think there's 49 people or 50 people in the faculty, all voted for her. So like this sort of demonizing of her as well as by maybe the ultra. But I think the biggest problem, Jude, let's get back to brass tacks here, is that she's been nominated by Donald Trump. Maybe she's not that.
I'm not sure I agree with. I agree with you partly. This is why I say my feelings on this woman are divided. I partly agree with you, and I do accept the fact that Trump is contradicting what the Republicans did last time, and it's typical bloody Trump, and he thinks that this might get him some sort of boost in his hopeless effort to retain the presidency. But I think that, people in the States, and people generally are a bit pissed off that she's being appointed so quickly and they should leave it to the next president. But I think the main reason is that she's a Catholic with certain views on abortion. I think that's what it comes down to in the end. Now, she's got views on gun control and she's got views on a number of other things. But I think the core thing is her views on abortion as a conservative Catholic. That, I think, is what's really annoying people, because I think they're fearful. They say they're fearful that they will revoke the Roe versus Wade, whatever it was, that allows for abortion across the US. I think that's at the heart of it, really. They also throw in some other things, like she's a member of this, what they call this secretive Christian
handmaiden group or something.
People of praise. They don't use that term, but people of praise, and they say that her defenders say they scrutinizing her beliefs. What is what it says here, Pat? Scrutinizing her beliefs in relationship to the mostly Catholic organization is akin to anti-religious bigotry. See, there is. I don't think you'd be well not to forget that there has been historically some degree of anti-Catholicism in the States. Like down south, southern states, it was Catholics and blacks and maybe Jews as well.
Yeah.
And you remember Kennedy had a hard time way back in the day. Now, I'm sure that has been washed out to a considerable extent, but Joe Biden, it was very important for him, I think, to declare that he would leave it to people's conscience and so on with regard to abortion. So he didn't take the traditional Catholic stand. I don't know quite what to make of this woman. I wouldn't want to have a conservative Supreme Court if I was an American. But on the other hand, you wouldn't like to disqualify somebody on the grounds of having a different view from you. I don't like her gun views, for example, but I personally, I would agree with her on abortion. But then again, she says, and maybe this is the case, that she's not going to be, asked, decide on something and she use her religious views. She says she will be interpreting the law as it stands. Whatever the law is, she will scrupulously interpret that law. And that seems fair enough to me,
Yeah, Jude, there's a bit of dilemma. By the way, can't disagree with your analysis either about the fact that it's the abortion issue is a big issue in America as well. And that whole Roe v. Wade, where you're entitled to get an abortion up until a certain date or whatever it is. And that there's an attempt by the evangelicals and the Christian right to revoke all that sort of stuff. And that Trump was putting her on to, this is appealing to his base. The gun lobby, the evangelicals. So, you see, you can be on one side on one issue and not on the other. See the conservative Supreme Court in America. I think that's going to, that will not be acknowledging the views of the majority if they go down that road. Jude, and I was chatting to a guy, part of our project, Bruce Morrison. He said the only time since I think 1960, now I'm open to correction, that the Republicans have won the popular vote is that when George W. Bush re-election, not the first election, the second time. Morrison actually claimed, if you check it out, the Republicans stole the first election in Florida, because the hanging chads. The hanging chads. So, and you go through it, and basically that's sort of, and Morrison is Joe Biden is almost certain to win the popular vote this time. But is this sort of a ridiculous thing of the electoral colleges, which I don't understand at all? So that's what could get. So Trump wants her in there. So in the event of any difficulties legal, he's appointed her and he's working on the basis she's going to be in. That's basically another part of the problem in regard to this appointment.
Well, they do say, that supposing the election's held and supposing Trump starts shouting blue murder if he's
and claiming electoral fraud and all this.
It would then go eventually to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary because...
Well, I presume that's what's... if you're looking for the ultimate objective of a mission statement from Trump, that's it.
That would be worrying. But I do find it very interesting. It's something we'll have to discuss in detail at some stage. But, to what extent... Like John F. Kennedy said, that he would leave he wouldn't be taking orders from Rome, he'd be taking orders from the American people. And essentially he said, he'd leave his religious views at the door. But you could argue that that's very reasonable, but on the other hand, you could say, if you have religious views, those should surely permeate your life. You can't say I'm going to leave my religious views at the door, can you?
Yeah. Well, there was a famous Donegal TD man called Paddy Hart, father of the Doyle. And I remember I was a young reporter, and he turned around to me. He says, "Pat, you know something? There's one big lesson you should learn as a young journalist. See, when you go to court, he says, you do not get justice, you get law." You know, and like that's, I think that's, you know, that's, I've never found it to be wrong. You know, you don't always get fairness or justice, but this woman says she will interpret the law. Well, the law is made by the lawmakers, and as long as she interprets the law fairly and squarely, I don't suppose anybody can have a big. But you know, hey, we're all human beings, and you can say leave your beliefs and your opinions and your religious views at the door, but they do shape you.
Well, it's also interesting, you know, that just supposing this woman had been a judge, you know, a fairly high up judge, but not going for the Supreme Court, and supposing you'd happen to run into her or read about her, you would read, as you have pointed out, that 3 years in succession she was voted the
Professor of the Year, Notre Dame.
Professor of the Year, whatever. She's got a family of 7, 2 of whom are adopted, one of whom has got problems, is it mental or physical problems? I'm not sure which. And, you know, I've read stuff that she has said about each one of them, and you know, it's quite warm and quite impressive. Like, and how would a woman manage, especially for a woman, you know, because I'm sure in law in America, as is definitely the case in Ireland and in England, a woman is at a disadvantage in the legal profession. I know there are quite a few women in the legal profession, but there's still misogyny running through it, just as there's racism running through the legal profession in England anyway. But, you know, if you'd seen her in totally different circumstances, you would say, this is a woman who guts. She must really have something, you know?
Jude, it's not, I know someone, maybe we were gone enough of it, but because I'm repeating myself, but it mightn't be the candidate herself. It might be the circumstances and the circus that's surrounding her.
Well, that's true. Anybody who's a friend of Trump, you begin to get a bit worried about them. You know?
And more normal times, she might have been totally acceptable.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave Amy and move on to flunkies. This was something that you noticed, Pat, that you hinted on Angela Merkel, maybe.
Aye. Jude, I came across this thing the last day where it said about Angela Merkel. She receives no free state services, no housing, no electricity, no gas, no entertainment expenses, no personal chef, no water, no free phone. She does her own shopping, carries her own bags, and apparently a photographer met her quite recently and said, Chancellor, you know, I photographed you in that suit or dress or whatever she was wearing 10 years ago. And she says, yeah, I'm a political leader, I'm not a model. No, I'm saying, see in the world that we've got the kleptocracy, Trump is using the presidency to promote his businesses. He's up the cost or the charges at Mar-a-Lago. His family have actually endorsed things. 2 or 3 members of his family have got licenses for products from other countries exclusive to themselves. Boris Johnson is handing out contracts to Tory donors and friends, hand over fist. Merkel, could Merkel be the template to save this world from what seems to be we're going down the pan at an amazing rate? She is sort of a moral leader as well as everything else, and she's running and has run it for a very long time, the most successful economy in probably the world.
The problem is, of course, that she's retiring. I think it raises a broader point, Pat, and that is, you know, should high-profile politicians do their own stuff? That is to say, should they drive their own cars? Should they do their own shopping? Should they, you know, just not have wait? If you watch, I'm watching Borgen on Netflix at the moment. That's about the fictional Prime Minister of Denmark, and just as all, you don't even see it as odd. Anytime she comes out of the Parliament, she gets into the back seat of a car, a chauffeur-driven car, and takes off. So my question would be, do politicians generally need to have, first of all, let's say, a chauffeur? No. I remember the time when the bishop in Derry,
I remember that as well.
Chauffeur-driven, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I mean, what happens to these guys? Do they forget how to drive whenever they? And do they have to have? Does a president? We've talked about this before, but does the president of Ireland? Now he's not a big man. Does he need to have a house must have about 20 bedrooms?
So 20 is a lot more than 20, but it's something like 90. No, I don't think, Jude. No, like there's a photograph on Facebook of Merkel standing in a queue at a supermarket. You'll never get our wee president, and much less Boris Johnson or Donald Trump. And I think we need to sort of come up with a new template and a world that seems to be getting out of control about all this sort of total dishonesty of these people. We need, maybe there should be a sort of a guidelines before anybody can stand for public life. This is what we're looking for. And know this crap that a lot of people come out, if you pay buttons, you'll only get monkeys type thing, all that sort of stuff. Well, Merkel can speak German, she can speak Russian perfectly, and she can speak English. She's a professor level or doctorate level in chemistry and physics, as far as I remember. So much for that rubbish. We've got a clown in America, a village idiot, who said he's a genius but won't release his exam results. Now, I'm not saying exam results prove anything per se, but we should have some sort of standards for people. If they're, the village idiot is not the best person to run the village.
Well, the people elected him, so you have to, as I hate to quote Churchill, but democracy is the worst form of government possible, except for everything else.
There was a Peter Sellers, and I can't remember, was it Shirley MacLaine made a film? I think it was something like called Coming Home, something like that. I can't remember exactly, about the village idiot who became president of America. It's almost a sort of what would you say, prescient, or what was the word? What's the word?
But I think that's moving away really from the topic that you started with, and that is, should big high-profile politicians do their own stuff? And she obviously doing her own stuff. But I think the arguments that they would bring in, and I think it'd be fair enough, is that question of security.
Yeah, and Jude, within reason, Jude, you wouldn't you couldn't expect Trump. He wouldn't last a minute in certain states, And Boris went to Liverpool right now. I'd say, so there's that. Yeah, look, we have to live in the real world. But I'm talking about the real things. There's plenty of things they could do. Look at Boris. They've all British prime ministers. They've got all these flunkies for everything. They have checkers weekend and so on. And they have all these grace and favour houses, and they live at number 10, and they've got helicopters, and they've got whatever. It's the salary is only the minor part of what comes with the job. And of course, once you're finished, you're on a sinecure for the rest of your days. Tony Blair's made something like 20-30 million since he retired as a prime minister. Well,
I just leave this topic now and very quickly go on to the last one, but it may not seem connected, but I remember Cardinal Cathal Daly, who lived on a very leafy suburb, well, not a suburb of Belfast, but a very classy sort of street.
Yes.
And I remember Sinn Féin, it was Jerry Adams, said to him, that you should be living among people, not in this rarefied atmosphere. It is a beautiful sort of place. Yeah. And he said that, but the point is, I wouldn't be able to receive all the important dignitaries that would want to have a talk with me if I was doing that. I just thought that was such a hollow answer. And bishops, the church too, is a lot to answer for. Like in Derry,
the old princess of the church,
Bishop's Palace. That's where they lived. Yeah. Nobody turned a hair, Anyway, come the revolution, Pat. There's any changes, I'll tell you.
Heads will rule.
Okay, right, we're going to take about 2 minutes to do this one, and that's letters. This comes from a thing I saw in England. There's this guy, or an organization that have contacted quite a number of people and have got them to write letters. Oh no, it's the mayor of somewhere.
Galway.
Galway, yes, sorry. Mayor of Galway has organized, or somebody has organized for him, a scheme whereby he writes letters to people who are particularly enclosed or locked down.
Jude, I know what you're on about. Apparently this guy was on Galway Bay FM radio last week, or some weeks back, and he said, look, this lockdown is getting to a lot of people, and he says, if you're aware of anybody who's in a particularly bad situation, send me a wee note, and I'll send them a personal letter. And Jude, when did you last get a handwritten letter in your door? Like all I ever get now from the postman is bills and stuff like that. It's at least 15 years since I got a handwritten. Pat, how are you? How are you and the kids?
Well, of course, what has killed it is emails. Because you can get the thing instantly there. It doesn't cost anything. I really miss letters myself. But I'll just tell you one thing. There's a man that I've talked to before who's in a care home, and each week I write him, like to send it to his daughter, a letter, and she runs it off in nice big font and brings it in to him, and he loves it.
Yeah,
he really loves it. And I put myself in his shoes, and I was saying, Jesus, I did exactly the same. Because even when I was a young man, when you'd see a letter, a good fat letter from somebody lying on that and said, "Oh, God,"
you would look forward to reading it.
Jeez, when there was something you could almost get a sense of the person by looking at the handwriting and stuff. And that's that. For some reason, you see, you could do the same thing if you think about it, or something similar with email. But for some reason, people always, well, I don't, but not most people always do short emails.
Yeah.
If you had somebody who did an email of, say, 1,500 or 2,000 words, you'd say, "My God, that's weird." It's a sort of a convention we have of just firing a few quick words.
Yeah.
I think it's something terrible we've lost.
Yeah. My mother's best friend immigrated to America after the Second World War. But I always remember these paravion letters, remember the airmail letters, and she would sit down for hours to read this letter, and it was as long, like a toilet roll. It went on and on and on, but that day's gone.
Oh yeah, it was great, and you could take, you could collect them, and then later on look back on them maybe a couple of years later.
Exactly.
Them were the days, Pat. I'm telling you,
those were days, yes.
Far too many bloody changes going on in the world. They want to stop changing things. Okay, Pat.
I remember when. Good luck, Jim.